Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dr. Grayson. How you doing?
Great. Great. Hello?
Okay, you want to?
Dr. Grayson, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, you can hear us. You can hear us.
Oh, we hear you from the computer now. We can hear you from the computer now.
Good.
Priscilla.
Yes.
Priscilla.
Yes.
So we're going to get started in 5 minutes. Make sure everyone has their break. My name is Dr. Grayson.
Yes.
I don't know if we want to move on so that
Go ahead on. Here, Priscilla.
I'm here. I hear you.
Just click on Dr. Grayson. You're going to switch back. Is it switching back and forth?
Good morning. Good morning. Do we need this? Are we coming through or do I need this? Okay. Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to our breakfast this morning. My name is Clergy and I'm an Irish Stir Associate. I was introduced to Dr. Michael Grayson about 6 months ago. I was actually in another business and someone said to me, we're going to really focus on credit. And when they first said that, I was not interested at all. I just wasn't. I was like, the last thing I want to do is do credit. And I had an opportunity to meet Dr. Grayson. And the first time I met him over the phone, he was talking about you had bad credit, your car insurance was going. He was talking about if you had bad credit, you had to pay more for a homeowner's policy. And then he said, and eventually if you have bad credit, you're going to pay more for a low credit. Right? He started sharing a lot of statistics with me, and at first I really thought maybe he was just reaching. I was like, this doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And over the almost everything that he said, somebody, I've spoken with someone who had the issue. Credit checks on their jobs, right? Running your credit to see if you can qualify for a job. All kinds of things. So today we are so fortunate to have Dr. Grayson. Dr. Grayson is in New York. That's the beauty of technology, right? He's in New York and he's with us live. We have folks all over the country that will be watching us today via Hangout. So Google Hangout is pretty amazing. It's our first major Google Hangout, so we're really excited about it. So let me tell you who Dr. Grayson is. Dr. Grayson is one of the leading credit experts in the world. Dr. Grayson has three of the highest reported credit records. The first one being 73 deletions in a 30-day period. The next one, a 300-point increase in 30 days. And I think this one is the most amazing one. One of his clients has the highest reported credit score in the country, a 990, right? So Dr. Grayson knows credit. The other thing that Dr. Grayson was recently on the cover of Real Estate Wealth magazine. So with all that being said, I think today we'll be so excited that you took time out of your busy schedules to just come and hear the information. So with that being said, I'd like to bring on Dr. Grayson. Dr. Grayson.
Hello, good morning. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you guys today. Can everybody hear me? Is it coming in clear?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we're going to get started with the PowerPoint. You guys ready with the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we'll start with the first slide. I have been very fortunate. I worked for the credit industry for about 20 years, and after I retired in 2000, I started my own business, and I've been very fortunate to work with some very powerful and prominent people. I've worked with professional athletes. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. I've worked with entertainers and comedians. Next slide. And I've been fortunate to work with some politicians throughout the country. Next slide. But my greatest pleasure and my highest hope comes with working with people like you who are on this call today. My heart really goes out to working with the clergy. Today's workshop is called Engineering Prosperity Using Kingdom Mathematics. Next slide. Engineering prosperity. Let's make sure we all understand engineering. The work of designing and creating large structures or new products or systems by using scientific methods. The control or direction of something, such as behavior. The activities or functions of an engineer. So today, I would like to make everybody on this workshop, on this Skype, on this Google Hangout, a honorary engineer. The application of science and mathematics. So also you're going to become honorary mathematicians. My undergrad degree was in systems engineering and mathematics. So I would like each of you also to be an engineer and a mathematician, by which the properties of matter and the sources of energy in nature are made useful to people. So we're going to take the properties of matter and energy and we're going to make them useful to people. Everything that you need to be prosperous in the world already exists. The problem is they have to be made useful to people. The design and manufacture of complex products. Prosperity is a complex product in a FICO environment, which is where we are right now. Calculated manipulation or direction. Another good definition, the professional art of applying science to the optimal conversion of resources of nature to the uses of humankind. Engineering is based principle on physics, chemistry, mathematics, extensions into math science, solid fluid, the transfer and rate of process and systems analysis. A great body of special knowledge is associated with engineering. That's a very key point. Let me say that again. A great body of special knowledge is associated with engineering. In order for us to engineer prosperity, we have to have a great body of special knowledge. Everybody on this call needs a great body of special knowledge. Preparation for professional practice involves extensive training in the application of that knowledge. So we have to have extensive training in associating with this particular type of knowledge. So that is the key. Next slide. Every time you hear the president speak now, the same with Congress, they're saying the same thing. The middle class is under attack. If the middle class is under attack, then the American dream is under attack. If the American dream is under attack, then the church is at war. And this is what I want you to keep in mind, something that Sun Tzu said in his treatise, The Art of War. He said the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. To subdue the enemy without fighting. Next slide. Next slide, please. All right, a couple statistics so that you understand the position that we're in, so that you understand that we are at war and the middle class is being subdued. You see here on these graphs, the first figure 3 shows that relative mobility based on countries. And you see that the United Kingdom has the lowest overall relative mobility of any country, any industrialized nation. That should not be surprising to most of you, because in the UK you have the royals and you have everybody else. The royals are on a plateau in and above itself, and you can't gravitate to the royals. Either you're born into it or you're not. So it's no surprise that the UK has little or no upward mobility. But what is surprising is the United States is number 2 in the world for low upward mobility. So in the United States, it is becoming very difficult to increase your status because of this new FICO system. Let's take a look at some of these other graphs. One of the problems in this country is that this graph shows you the rate of change of income. And you can see in the blue graph there that the average wages has not changed over the course of the last 20 or 30 years. The third graph here shows you the richest American share of the economy. This is a very scary graph because it shows you the disparity between the super rich and middle class America. And you can see here the disparity is higher now than it was in World War II or during the Great Depression. So there's a higher disparity between the super rich and the middle class. New residential construction, one of the lowest points in history for new residential construction. Next slide, please. Let's look at it from a statistical standpoint. 1 out of every 7 Americans rely on food banks at this point. 1 out of 7. 1 out of every 4 military families need help putting food on the table. 1 out of every 3 adults in the United States has an unpaid debt in collections. That'll scare you. 1 in 3 Americans have a debt in collections. Only 48% of Americans can come up with $400 in emergency cash without borrowing it or selling something. Only 48%. According to one recent survey, 52% of all Americans cannot even afford the house that they're living in right now. The average age of vehicles on American roads has hit an all-time high. It's currently at 11.4 years. 1 out of every 6 men in their prime, 25 to 54, do not have a job. 36% of Americans do not have a single penny saved for retirement. According to one survey, 76% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 76%. Today, 1 out of every 10 jobs is filled by temp agency. More than 1 out of every 5 children in the United States live in poverty in 2014. 1 out of every 5. According to one study, there are 49 million Americans that are dealing with food insecurity. That means that 49 million Americans do not know where their next meal is coming from on a day-to-day basis. 49 million. 10 years ago, the number of women in the U.S. that had jobs outnumbered the number of women on food stamps by more than 2 to 1. Now, currently, women in the U.S. on food stamps exceeds the number of women who have jobs. Finally, this statistic is probably the scariest of them all. In the middle class, okay, more than 1 million public school children are homeless. These are kids that are actually attending school. More than 1 million of them are homeless. Next slide. Again, the numbers, the mathematics tell the whole story, and it's very important that you guys who are on this Google Hangout understand what is happening right now in real time. Sometimes because you are personally prosperous, it's hard for you to understand what is happening to the rest of the world or to the rest of the country or to the people in your community. If you are prosperous right now, you are very fortunate. You're very rare. Let me prove that to you. This graph shows countries with the highest rate of poverty in the world. And you can see here, number 1 is Mexico. There is no surprise there. Number 2 is the United States. The United States has the second highest rate of poverty of any nation in the world. That ought to scare you and upset you. And you can see here at the top graph, it shows this breakdown by racial grouping so that you understand that this poverty rate in America is not affecting everybody equally. Some groups, in this graph you see in blue, is white Americans. In the gold color, it is African Americans. And then finally, in the cream color, is Hispanic Americans. Next slide. How is this translated to the church? How is this impacting the church? Well, you can see that new church construction is the lowest it's been in probably 50 years. Next slide. Worse than the fact that nobody's building a whole lot of new churches, the churches that are in existence are getting foreclosed on. If you look at this graph here, the first graph shows you that prior to 2006, church foreclosures in this country were almost non-existent. There were almost no churches in foreclosure. Currently, there are over 30,000 churches in foreclosure. Over 30,000. Next slide. Part of the problem is that We don't first realize that we're at war, and then secondly, we are not trained to be counselors of war. So today my goal is to teach you a paradigm shift, to prepare you to be what I call a wartime concierge. That means that you are prepared to advise people from a standpoint of war. You realize that you are in a war time and you are giving them advice that is in real time and is consistent with the atmosphere of war. Next slide. The Quran teaches, and I love this passage, it says that every one of you is a caretaker, and every caretaker is responsible for what he is caretaker of. You know, a lot of people listen to my workshops and they're very excited and they're empowered personally, and they go out and make a lot of personal changes and improve their lifestyle. But really, for me personally, the true benefit and why I'm so passionate about these workshops is because I want you to take that information first, yes, empower yourself, but then take it beyond you to the people that you care about, to your communities, to your churches or synagogues or mosques, to take this information and have it be a benefit to society. Because again, every one of you is a caretaker, and every caretaker is responsible for what he is caretaker of. So again, to reinforce this point, there are a lot of pastors on this Google Hangout, and so one of the things I want to make sure, because I know as a pastor, you know, you are often confronted with the issue of preaching versus teaching, and people might come to you and say, why would the church care about folks' credit? Why is the church teaching credit? Why is the church in the credit business? So I want to address that particular issue as we proceed in this workshop. Next slide. So I want to start at the beginning. Why would the church, why would a pastor, why would a minister be actively involved in the credit business? Well, I start with this story here. In this story, Jesus' parents were looking for him, and when they found him, they seemed kind of surprised, or they were very antsy, and he asked them a very simple but aggressive question. He said, "Why do you seek me? Did you not know that I must be about my Father's business? I must be about my Father's business." And I love that, and that's how I structure my own personal life, and I would encourage you to do the same. Every day, everything that I do, I must be about my Father's business. So next slide. So the task or challenge then is to understand what is my Father's business, because I must be about it. You don't have to look for Dr. Gracie. You got to wonder where I am, because no matter where I am, I'm about my Father's business. When you find me, you will know, because I'm about my Father's business. I must be. So what is my Father's business? So we get more insight with these two scriptures. Verily I say unto you, he that enters not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he that entereth in the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter opens, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out. With the emphasis on leadeth them out. He leadeth them out. Leadeth them out of what, though? That is what's important here. Leadeth them out. So let's keep reading. The thief comes not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I come so that they might have life, and they may have it more abundantly. Now we're getting very close to understanding your Father's business. You have come. Your job is to make sure that the sheep have life and they have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. I am the good shepherd. That is my mission in life, to become the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. But he that is an hireling and not the shepherd, who owns the sheep or not, seeth the wolf coming and leaveth the sheep and fleeth. And the wolf catches them and scatters the sheep. The hireling flees because he is a hireling and cares not for the sheep. I am the good shepherd and know my sheep, and I am known by them, as my Father knows me. So when the wolf comes, his only job is to catch the sheep and to scatter them. It says he catches them and he scatters the sheep. It didn't say that he caught them and ate them or destroyed them or ripped them asunder. It said he catches them and then he scattered them. He caught them and then he scattered them. Next slide. Let me prove to you that the wolf is catching the sheep and scattering them. By the numbers, if you look at the average rate, and this graph shows you the average rate of church attendance through 2012, you can see that by the numbers, the church attendance, it's less than 50% of what it used to be. Church attendance is less than 50%. It is less than 50%. So the thief or the wolf is doing his job. He is scattering the sheep. Everybody's looking for answers. They're looking for solutions. They're looking to find God. But when they come to the church, they are still being scattered. Next slide. Currently, 75% of Americans affiliate themselves with a branch of Christianity, even though the average weekly church attendance is still on the decline. However, at the current rate of decline, it is projected by 2035 this will no longer be the case, and the U.S. will become a non-Christian nation for the first time in history. So we know that the wolf is on his job of scattering the sheep. Next slide. So again, we understand this system of the wolf scattering the sheep, but it's important that you understand how he is facilitating such a great fleeing of the faith, so to speak. How is it that he is getting the sheep to run and to flee and to avoid the church, and why is church on the decline? He is attacking us at our finances. Why would the wolf or the enemy or Satan, why would he attack your finances? Because I want to show you that by attacking your finances, he's really attacking your faith. And he said unto his disciples, this is Luke 12, 22nd to 31st, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what you shall eat, neither for the body, what you shall put on, whether or not your mortgage is paid, if you got money for this or that. The life is more than meat, and the body is more than raiment. Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which neither have storehouse nor barn, and God feedeth them. So the word says that we should not be worried about ourselves. If our car is being repossessed, we shouldn't be worried about that. That's God's job to take care of us. And then it goes on to say, O ye of little faith. God said don't worry about these things. Don't worry about your bills being paid. Don't worry about your debt. And if you are worried about those things, it is a testament to your little faith. So, and seek not ye what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, neither ye shall be of a doubtful mind. For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things, but rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all things shall be added unto you. So again, by having the enemy attack your finances, he can force you to stop thinking about the kingdom, stop thinking about other people, stop thinking about being about your Father's business, and focus on your own needs, which now becomes a testament to your lack of faith. Next slide. So what we find, and this is a mathematical symbol, because remember today we were talking about the mathematics, kingdom mathematics. So I want to introduce you to the system. It means proportionate to, so your faith is proportionate to your prosperity. And again, that is reinforced in Hebrews 16. And without faith it is impossible to please him. For whoever draws near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. So if you don't believe that you are prosperous and that you are under financial attack, you will start to believe that God is not with you, or God doesn't care about you, or maybe the scriptures are inaccurate. But essentially, you start losing faith. So that is why it's important for us who are in the faith business to be in the prosperity business. We can't, the two are no longer mutually exclusive. If we're serious about helping people with their faith, we have to first be serious about helping them with their prosperity. They can't see their faith in real time. And understand this, God is saying, look, if you're about to lose your house to foreclosure, you shouldn't be worried about that. You should still be worried about your neighbor who is in foreclosure, because you're supposed to be helping the poor. But in real time, that is very difficult, to not worry about your house being in foreclosure when you have your wife upset, your kids are upset. So if I want to help you improve your faith, the easiest way for me to do that is to help you improve your prosperity. Because now that you don't have to worry about your house being lost to foreclosure, you can focus on the job at hand. And that is the goal. That is the goal of this workshop, to give you the tools to increase individuals' prosperity so that you can increase their faith. Next slide. So more and more, I think the clergy are starting to get this message, and people in general in the nation, people of influence, movers and shakers, policymakers, are starting to get the idea that you have to start to increase people's prosperity. You have to take them out of debt to increase their prosperity. So now we have to understand or discern, how are we going to do this? This is a very lofty goal, is a very complex topic. So we have to understand what works and what doesn't work. Because constantly, because of the internet and the news media, we are being bombarded with potential solutions. So I want you on this call to be experts. I don't want you to misunderstand. I don't want you to waste your time with policies or procedures that don't work, because time is our enemy. And we know the wolf is doing his job. He's separating the sheep. He's thinning the herd. So we have to be very specific about our mission. We have to create a strategy that ends with solutions. So Occupy Wall Street is doing something a lot of people are doing. They're buying personal debt and just tearing it up for people. So in this case, in this news article, you see here, Occupy Wall Street advocates buy $15 million worth of Americans' personal debt, and then they told them, we're just going to tear the paper up. On the surface, that might sound good, but this is a terrible, terrible idea. Whoever came up with this was a terrible idea. Their heart was in the right place. I'm not saying that. Obviously their heart's in the right place, but they're terribly misinformed, and they do not understand the system of debt and credit currently in America. Next slide. Forgive us our debts. So here in this article, it's talking about Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Norfolk. They are doing something that you'll see more and more churches starting to advertise it and starting to do. What they did was they raised $340,000 from their members, and they used it to pay the debts of 59 families. I read an article a little while back that really upset me. It was about some young lady in the church. The pastor, she came across $12 million. And so she decided she was going to use that money to pay off the church debts. So she simply, one Sunday, had everybody bring in all their bills, and she sat there with a big stack of checkbooks and paid off everybody's debt. They spent up the entire $12 million. This is the problem. What do you think happens 6 months later? Everybody's back in debt. So she just burned $12 million. Do you know what she could have done with that $12 million? So that is not a good strategy. Going to the church and asking the church to give you more money to pay off other people's bad debt, that's a terrible idea. Your heart is in the right place. There's no question about it. Your heart is in the right place. If you get $12 million and the first thing you think about is helping other folk, your heart is in the right place. But unfortunately, her strategy was wrong. Whoever gave her advice misled her. So we want to understand, next slide, why this is not good methodology. Why those strategies will not work. Number one reason, take a look at this. The aggregate consumer debt increased in the fourth quarter by $241 billion, the largest quarter, blah, blah, blah. Look at this. Total consumer indebtedness is $11.52 trillion. So believe me when I tell you, you would have to sell a lot of dinners to come up with $11 trillion. You'd have to ask for a lot of offerings. You'd have to take a lot of offerings to get rid of or even make a dent in $11 trillion. So obviously, collecting monies, pooling resources, and paying off the debt is not a sound solution, because there is no way you're going to make a dent in $11 trillion. Where are you going to get $11 trillion from? So that's an exercise in futility. Even if she took $12 million, it was gone in one afternoon, and she got nothing to show for it. That is not being a good steward. That is not being a good shepherd. The second reason is because we now are governed by CDS, credit, debt, and scores. So any solution that you're looking for debt or for credit has to encompass all three of these things, or it is, again, an exercise of futility. If you just address the debt without addressing the credit and my credit score, you have done me no favors. If you give me a solution that only fixes my credit but doesn't deal with my debt and my credit score, you have done me no favors. If you find a solution to fix my credit score but you haven't addressed my debt or my credit history, then you have done me no favors. So you need a total solution that encompasses CDS, credit, debt, and score. So if you're talking to your advisors and they say, look, let's raise $500,000 in the church and find 40 folks that we can help save. Now our church is 10,000 strong, but we're going to save 40 folk. If they're advising you along these lines, then you know that is not a sound or rational counsel. Because if you're not addressing all three of these issues, you have helped no one. Next slide. Now, again, a lot of people, a lot of churches, a lot of clergy, a lot of people understand this need to be actively helping people with their prosperity, and we know all prosperity is tied to the current credit system, CDS, credit, debt, and score system. All prosperity in the nation is tied to CDS. So they're seeking answers. There's a lot of big organizations out there, but unfortunately, they are teaching old methodologies. In the year 2000, this country switched from the old credit system to the new FICO credit scoring system. Unfortunately, most 90% of people who are in the CDS business are still teaching the old credit system. Let me prove it to you. These are two of the largest, Crown Financial Ministries and Dave Ramsey. So I want you to visit their websites and see what they teach so you understand that this is old credit system methodologies. It does not work in a FICO environment. So I was reading some of this stuff here. Take a look. This says Dave Ramsey squeals with delight every time he slices a credit card in half. Dave Ramsey believes that you should cut up all your credit cards. That is death in the FICO system. That is death. If you visit the website of the people who invented the current credit system used by everybody in the industrialized world, they will tell you that that is death. As soon as you cut up all your credit cards, you are dead. It is impossible for you to be prosperous in America. So if you follow these teachings, you are dead. It says here, in Ramsey's world, you wait to buy a car, preferably used, or a washing machine until you can pay for it in cash. That philosophy sounds good. In the old credit system, it sounded even better. That's a nice thought. I understand where you're going, Mr. Ramsey. That's a nice thought. Pay for everything in cash. But unfortunately, we live in a plastic society. So if I'm playing with cash, I better be a billionaire. Because I live in a plastic society. If you're trying to do everything in cash, you better be a multi-millionaire. Anything short of that, if you are not currently a multi-millionaire, you can't exist in a plastic world with cash. If you're doing everything in cash, that means you're not building any credit history, which means you are dead. How are you going to get a job? How are you going to get a promotion? How are you going to get a good insurance? How are you going to get any insurance? How are you going to get a promotion? Everything that you do is tied to a credit system. The Fair Isaacs Company said that 80% of all financial decisions in your life are based on your credit. So now you're going to say, look, I'm not participating in the credit system. I'm going to use it cash. Yeah, if you are rich. If you make less than $10 million a year, that ain't going to work. So I'm sorry to say that. I know there might be a lot of Ramsey fans out there. I like Mr. Ramsey personally, but his advice is bad and dangerous in a FICO environment. He's destroying people. I'm sorry. I got to tell it like it is. Don't take my advice. Go to the people that invented the system and compare their teachings to his. Ultimately, if enough of you did this, maybe you could go to Mr. Ramsey and say, hey, look, let me introduce you to the FICO system. Maybe he'll study the FICO system and retool his system so that he can help people. I'm sure he is a good person and he is trying to help. Just like Crown Ministries. I'm sure they're trying to help. But you have to teach FICO-based technology or you're destroying people. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. I'm sorry. Go back one. I'm sorry. I missed that. Okay. Here's another headline that I saw that I wanted you to be aware of. This was something recent. This is Capital One Bank partners with Windsor Village United Methodist Church. Again, the churches are starting, the clergy are starting to get it. They're starting to understand that prosperity is directly proportional to faith. I didn't say they were equal. I said they were directly proportional. So if I increase the prosperity of my church, I will increase the faith. I will increase the membership. I will increase my evangelism. So here's a good story. It says here that United Methodist Church started a debt boot camp. Beautiful idea. Look at what they've done. Now this is being touted by the media as the most powerful program in the nation. This is the most powerful. They had 141 graduates last May. They raised their credit scores on average by more than 30 points. Sounds great, right? Collectively, the group reduced their debt by more than $70,000. Okay, so you got 141 people together. They saved 70 G's, so they saved about $500 a piece, and each one of them raised their credit scores 30 points, and it only took them 9 months to do that. So the world is saying that is the best program that's out there. Next slide. The program that I'm introducing you to today is called Rapid Restructure. I want you to compare Rapid Restructure to their program. With Rapid Restructure, you can eliminate all foreclosures. You can eliminate up to 90% of all bad debt without payment or settlement. Right now, our average person is saving about $20,000 in 90 days. Now you compare that to $500 at over nine months, and you tell me $20,000 per person. We can stop 99% of all judgments and garnishments. 99% of them can be shut down, stopped completely. We eliminate the need for Chapter 13 bankruptcy, consumer credit counseling, debt consolidation, and credit repair. We increase all credit scores 50 to 100 points in 6 months or less. Right now we're averaging close to a 75-point increase in 90 days. 30 points is nice, but how many people know that 75 points is nicer? We give every member a strategy so they can access up to $500,000 in under 2 years. Now I can start planning for my prosperity. If I know that in 2 years I can have access to up to $500,000, believe me, I can get some stuff done. Now we're talking prosperity. Hopefully you will adopt this program and start to change lives and change history. But this is Rapid Restructure. Next slide. Okay. Another mathematical term I want to teach you, and if you'll take this with you and share this with folks, is called the principle of the syllogism. The principle of the syllogism. Aristotle gets credit for inventing the principle of the syllogism. The syllogism is a complex expression in which certain things being given, something else necessarily follows. The statements which are given are called premises, and what follows is called the conclusion. So again, the principle of the syllogism simply states if A equals B, and B equals C, then A equals C. Now before we go further, I want to share 3 scriptures with you very quickly. Psalms 82:4. Rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked. These are passages which directly correspond or correlate to being about our Father's business. We want to know what our Father's business is so we know what our task is, what our jobs are. So these scriptures teach you that. Isaiah 1:17. Learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, plead the widow's case. A lot of time in our religious walk, we want to just pray and be good people. But we are taught through the word we are supposed to be active. We should activate or mobilize our faith. It says here to seek justice, correct oppression, to correct it, to correct it. As soon as we see oppression, we should be actively correcting it. Correcting it. In Galatians 6:7-9, do not be deceived, for God is not mocked, for so whatever one sows, that shall he also reap. So imagine then if you sow prosperity, you can reap prosperity. That is why you shouldn't be tied to thinking about your own problem. You should be actively fixing somebody else's. If you find that you got a foreclosure problem, but your friend has a debt problem, as soon as you start helping him with his debt problem, helping him to become prosperous, then now you have just sowed prosperity, which means you can start to reap it. So the more people that I sow prosperity into their lives, then so more prosperity I can reap. So the bigger my problem, the more actively I'm trying to sow prosperity in other people's lives. I'm not going to sit at home and cry and weep and fret and worry about my own foreclosures or debt problems. I'm going to start getting busy sowing prosperity into other folks' lives. Next slide. So this is how the principle of the syllogism works for the clergy. Now, if you want to study more about the principle of the syllogism, it's in the collected works of Aristotle. It's called Posterior Analytics. But I want to simplify this for you. If the people are broke, and the church is made up of people, then it lends to follow that the church is broke. That is the principle of the syllogism. If the people are broke and the church is the people, then the church is broke. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. So by converse, if the people are prosperous and the church is made up of people, then the church will be prosperous. It's mathematics. The reason there's 30,000 churches in foreclosure is because the church is not activating or studying kingdom mathematics. This is a function of kingdom mathematics, the principle of the syllogism. Because you have not mastered the principle of the syllogism, the churches are suffering. So again, if the people are prosperous, the church is made up of people, then the church is prosperous. So the only way for the church to prosper is if they then sow prosperity into people's lives. Next slide. I apologize for forcing a lot of mathematics and science on you, but that is what I promise you today. You'll become engineers and mathematicians. Okay. Numbers 13:25. Okay. Let's see here. How much of this I want to do? We can. Okay, here. And they returned from searching the land after 40 days, and they went and came to Moses and Aaron and to the congregation of children of Israel unto the wilderness of Paran to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them. And unto all them come, nevertheless, it says here, we came unto the land whither thou sentest us, and surely it flowed with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities wall and very great, and more, we saw the children of the Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, the Hittites, the Jebusites, the Amorites dwell in the mountains. So, this is the problem with tackling a credit debt score solution. This is the problem you will face when you seek to sow prosperity into people's lives. And this is why most clergy take the easy way out. They take the Ramsey product. Because the Ramsey product, people get very hyped up and happy. They'll still be broke and have bad credit and be in debt, but they're going to be happy. And you want to just, because as soon as you take the people to true prosperity, they can see it. Our program, which we're showing you here today, every single person in your church or congregation or ministry is going to have access to $500,000. That is the promised land. They will be able to see it and feel it. But this is the problem. There are giants in the land. The Anak live there. I'm not saying let us join hands and walk into the promised land. And when we get there, we all going to have $500,000 in our pocket. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying here is the $500,000. You can put it in your pocket, but before you get there, we're going to have to kill us some Anaks. We got to go to war first. And understand God and kingdom methodology. God could have simply said, hey, here's the promised land. He could have whacked out everybody in the promised land, so we just walked up, strolled up in there, and life is very simple. That's what God could have done. God has the ability to do that. He could have whacked out all the Anak, the Hittites, the Canaanites, everybody. He could have just said, waved his hand and they disappeared. Or he could have beheaded them. So we could just walk in. Because clearly the land floweth with milk and honey. There's no doubt about it. Okay? But there was still some work to do. So that is what I'm telling you here today. I'm not selling you a get-rich-quick scheme. That doesn't exist in our world. What I'm telling you is, yes, I'm going to show you, I'm going to walk you up to the land of milk and honey. But there are some Anaks there, and we're going to have to destroy them first. Okay? And Caleb stilled the people before Moses, and he said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are able to overcome it. And that's what I'm telling you. Or we can win. There ain't an Anak alive that we can't destroy. There ain't a Hittite, Jezebite, whatever. We can kill them all. But we have to go right now as a group and possess this land of milk and honey. Let's go. Next slide. So the first thing we need to do is know who our next slide. It's important that we know our enemy for a very simple reason. Next slide. Next slide. Because we're commanded to do one thing. Ephesians 5:11 says, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. If you don't know what the unfruitful works of darkness are, chances are you're in fellowship with it. If you don't know what the unfruitful works are, it is easy to be in fellowship with it. And quite the converse, we're not supposed to be in fellowship with it. We're supposed to reprove it. Next slide. So, every way that you access capital in this country is tied to one thing. Next slide. Next slide. Every way you access the American dream is tied to one thing. Next slide. Next slide. So everything that you want to do in this life, every job, if you want to start your own business, you want a government contract, you want to be a licensed broker, all licensing is tied to your credit. So now bad credit becomes our enemy. If you are in a church leadership, if you're a pastor or a minister, bad credit is your enemy. Bad credit is the wolf that is scattering your sheep. Now you could be like the hireling and say, well, that's a big ticket item. I don't know nothing about credit. You know, I'm going to just go over here and do my normal thing and hope for the best for the people. But I ain't tackling that credit issue. I don't know nothing about the FICO system. That's a little above my pay grade. I can't do nothing. I can't help you. That's what the hireling thinks. But as an enlightened good shepherd, you know now that bad credit is your enemy. Bad credit is come to destroy and to steal and rob and kill everything that you love. So every other conversation that you have from this point forward ought to involve credit. The enemy is not shrinking the church and bankrupting the church using Satanistic rhetoric. He's not trying to convert your people to Satanism. He knows the word is strong in you. The word is strong in your church. He can't fight you at that level because you are strong with the word. The Spirit is with you. So he's using a tool that you're scared of. You're scared of credit. So that is the battlefield that he's going to fight you on. And right now he is winning. So bad credit is your enemy. God has a plan for your life, but the enemy has a plan for your life as well. So you have to be ready for both and be wise enough to know which one to battle and which one to embrace. Next slide. Next slide. Go 4 more slides. Two more. One more. Okay. The enemy's plan, the credit industry plans involve 6 key industries. 6 key industries. There's a new phenomenon called risk-based pricing. Risk-based pricing. So you need to understand and start researching risk-based pricing. What that simply means is if you have bad credit, you're going to pay more than folks with good credit. So through bad credit, the enemy is either going to destroy you or control you through one of these industries. So in housing, you always need a good credit to buy a house. Now you need good credit to rent a house in the ghetto. For banking, you always need a good credit to borrow money from a bank. Now you need good credit to give a bank money. Employment, you know you can't get a job, promotion, or raise if you don't have good credit. In this country, you can't get a job, promotion, or raise without good credit. But now also they're starting random employer credit checks. So even if you have a good job and making good money, they're going to take it away from you if you have bad credit. The insurance industry. All insurance is tied to credit. Right now the move is toward health scores, which means very soon, if you have bad credit, you will not be able to get insurance in this country, health insurance. That's why President Obama is trying to live and die with Obamacare. He's trying to ensure that everybody still has access to health insurance because he knows what's coming. But that's why everybody else is fighting him. They're fighting him on Obamacare because they're getting ready to make it impossible for people with bad credit to have health insurance. They're going to start killing you off because you refuse to embrace this system. Retail sales. We know that everything you purchase in the future, the price you pay will be tied to your credit. That is why every major retailer in the country is offering cards, discount cards. They're going to start coming out with Visa discount cards, Gold Visa discount cards, and Platinum Visa discount cards. So the better your card, the cheaper your price. That is the strategy. Small business, you know you can't access any capital without credit. That's why now the big corporations are becoming super corps. They're flushing out and eliminating small businesses across the board. Everything is becoming a super corporation. Next slide. Keep going. Go a couple slides for me. Keep going. Next up, keep going. Keep going. Yep, keep going. I'll tell you when to stop. Okay. I taught a class, and in the class, I said that they asked me who invented the FICO system. I said Pharaoh invented the system. Pharaoh was a genius. Pharaoh created a system whereby the middle class lived in such a way that people thought that they were slaves. Because if you remember, back in the old days, in the 50s, when you saw Hollywood movies about people building pyramids in ancient Egypt, you always saw them get whipped. That modern archaeology has proved that the pyramid builders were not slaves. They were the actual middle class of the time. So you have to give Pharaoh credit. He had people living in such a way that people from the outside looking in said, hey, they got to be slaves to live like that. But that's how you are right now. Look at people in your community. They're working 2 jobs, their wife's working, the kids working. They still living paycheck to paycheck. You're living like a slave, but you are the middle class. So Pharaoh is doing his job. Next slide. Okay, during times of financial slavery, our slave masters, during times of physical slavery, the slave masters forbade one thing over everything else, and that was never let the slaves learn how to read. Once they learn how to read, they'll start to shut down the slave system. So the same thing now during times of financial slavery, the slave masters forbid one thing above all else. Next slide. Learning the new FICO credit scoring system. I'm going to prove that to you. When you get off of this Google Hangout, I want you to try to Google FICO credit scoring course. Find a single college or university or high school anywhere in the country that teaches this course. The course that we're taking right now today, find a single college or university or high school or vocational school anywhere on the planet. Don't stop at the U.S. I tried to do that, and I returned a value of 0. Mathematically, it is impossible to return a 0 value on the internet. I tried to Google courses on how to knit sweaters for dogs, and I got back a bunch of responses. Try that. How to knit sweaters for dogs. There's classes on that, but the one thing that controls 80% of all finances in your life, no one can find a course on. Do you know how much money and power it takes to hide the FICO system for you? But understand this, that's not their fault, that's your fault. You're not demanding it. You know that credit is stopping you from doing everything that you want to do. Credit is destroying your ministry. It's destroying the people, your members. It's destroying them. And you pray with them and cry with them every night, but you won't demand that the college in your town teach FICO system so that you can send your people there and they can learn this course and empower their lives. That's your fault, because you are the leaders. If you're on this call, you are a leader. Whether you're a pastor or minister or not, you have been sent to this call for a reason, because you are a leader. So the country needs you and the world needs you. Next slide. Keep going. Okay. How do you stop the masses from protesting the shift to financial slavery? Because understand this, 75% of you are living paycheck to paycheck. So there's a lot of stressed out folk out there. So in previous times, stressed out people would start to riot and tear stuff up. So now they're going to push 99% of you to poverty. 99% of the population is going to go to poverty. I hate to be the one to tell you, but it's going to happen. The Bible said the poor is always going to be among us. They're talking about the people with bad credit. You are going to be among us in greater numbers than are poor. So they anticipated this. So what are they going to do to stop you from protesting? Next slide. They're going to give you something to replace prosperity. Here you go. Every state in the union is in the process of legalizing drugs. So now you won't want to be prosperous because you could just get high. All celebrities, all TV shows, everybody's going to start selling you on the concept of when you have a problem, just go spark up a doobie or pull out your pipe. You don't need to be prosperous, just smoke some crack. That is where the world is going. Next slide. Who really controls this system? Next slide. You should already know. If you're in a position of leadership, you should know or have heard of the contract with Satan. There's literally, I'm not talking figuratively, I'm not talking about hyperboles, I'm talking about there exists a physical contract that you sign with Satan at certain positions in life. You will be approached by someone who offers you a contract endorsed by Lucifer. Once you sign the contract, or people who have signed the contracts, they are under mandate that whenever they're in the public eye, they have to flash one of three signs. The reason I'm telling you this is so you will know who you are dealing with in the future. Satan is sending a clear signal to your children that the church is broke. The ministry is broke. The ministry is suffering. The ministry don't know how to make money. The ministry doesn't know how to be prosperous. Everybody in ministry is struggling. But Satan has the women and the cars and the bling. That's why in all these music videos, there's a lot of satanic imagery. Satan wants to be associated with wealth and power and the stuff that you want. So, once they're in public, they have to flash one of three signs. The first sign is this. You see this all the time. You think it means okay. This is okay. Okay is straight. When somebody says okay, it's straight. When somebody is signaling Satan, he flashes 666. Those are 3 sixes. That's why they have to curve it, so that you see there's 3 sixes there. Okay? Or they have to flash this. This is what's on your money, the all-seeing eye of Satan. Satan sees everything. God is everywhere, but Satan sees everything. And watch your celebrities very closely. Some of them are very subtle, but some of them are very in your face. And then the final symbol is the horns of Satan. The horns of Satan. So if I'm in contract with Satan, if I've signed the document, I have to show you my support. My problem with this is the same thing as if I was to right now raise my middle finger to you guys on this Google Hangout, you would be very upset. You would be, cussing and screaming and emailing and blowing my phone up, sending me death threats. So then, why do you allow these people to send the finger to God? When you do this, you're giving God the finger. When you do this, you're giving God the finger. When you do that, you're giving God the finger. Listen, you can give me the finger, but don't give God the finger. Not in my presence. You want to see me go off and act ugly? Try giving God the finger in my presence. I see a lot of clergy upset about a lot of stuff. Why aren't you upset that they are giving God the finger in your presence? Next slide. All right. So now we want to start to put on our full armor, the full armor of God. Again, we know that Satan is attacking you. He's attacking your ministries. He's not attacking you everywhere, because certain places you are invulnerable. So I wanted to remind you that your full armor is comprised of three different things. The first is your suit of armor. You see here in this picture the chainmail. That is your suit of armor. That is the Word of God. So most ministries have that very well covered. They've covered their congregations and ministries with the Word of God, so you are invulnerable there. Satan ain't coming for you there. Next is your sword. That is the manifestation of the Word of God. Is your Bible, your Quran, whatever your documents that you have to protect you, your prayer mat. Those are your swords. So again, Satan ain't coming for you there because he knows your sword is strong. The third and final piece of your full armor is your shield. Your shield is comprised of prosperity. It is called, next slide. Your prosperity you use to cover folk. So the Bible says, defend the poor and the fatherless, deliver the poor and the needy. So when the poor and the needy are here, you protect them with your prosperity shield. A lot of folks get confused here, and they have the poor and the needy. They try to defend them with their spiritual covering. You can't pull off your suit of armor and give it to them. That makes you vulnerable. You can defend them a little bit with your sword, but where you truly defend them, you can cover them, because your sword, still leaves a lot of areas vulnerable. So what you need to do is take your shield of prosperity and cover the poor and the needy. Now I got this whole shield thing, and you got to watch out for my sword. I got this poor covered, and I'm fighting with my sword. That is your true and total armor of God. Next slide, please. Keep going. All right, the first thing I want to teach you, I'm sorry, go back one. The first thing I want to teach you is the mathematics of prosperity. You have to know how to access capital in this country. So I want you guys to write this down. In this country, there are 5 key credit score points. The first point is 620. 620 is called performing credit. If you have less than a 620 credit score, you have underperforming credit. You are penalized for everything you do in this country. You pay the highest rate, interest rates. You pay fees, fines, security deposits. You get the worst jobs. If you're you think America's a third world country if you have less than 620 FICO. 680 FICO is the minimum government standard. So if you want to do business with the government, you want government jobs, grants, contracts, loans, you need 680. The SBA currently has like a 5% penetration rate. That means 95% of people get turned down because they don't realize you need a minimum of 680 to do business with the government. Now the magic number, and we're going to stop at the magic number 720 FICO. At a 720 FICO, you can now access up to $500,000. That's the one number they don't want you to know about. They don't want you to aspire to. That's why everywhere you read, say good credit, bad credit, don't worry about it. We can get it for you. Welcome to Bondage Motors. They want you to stop thinking about your score because they're scared to death that you will hit 720 FICO. Don't let you be like Minister Muhammad. Minister Muhammad said he's going to set a minimum standard for his entire ministry of 720. That makes him the most dangerous man in the country. Do you understand that if just half your ministry has 720 FICO score, let's say you only have 100 members in your church, or you only have 200 members in your church. You got 200 members. 100 of them have 720 FICO. That means you have access to $50 million in your church. You have a $50 million anointing on your church. Is prosperity then an issue for your church? Is anything an issue at that level? Don't let you get together with 10 other churches who have the same level of training as you do. Now together, you have a $500 million anointing on your group. Right? That's just 10 of you. That's just 10 of you. You have a $500 million. Now when you get together and meet in your small church meeting groups, now you got something to talk about. What are we going to do at a $500 million? How can we change the world? We got a $500 million to work with. And that's just 10 of you. That's 10 pastors. That's 10 pastors getting together. 10 of you. What if the 10 came 100? The 100 became 1,000. Now we get scary. Now we're talking about $1 trillion anointing. Nobody want to talk about that. That's too scary. So let's keep it much simpler. If you just mandate that 50%, because we know everybody don't want perfect credit. Some people scared of perfect credit. Some people scared to be prosperous. They rather complain and whine and moan and feel like a victim because they think that Jesus was a victim, so maybe they should be a victim too. Everybody don't want perfect credit. But if just half of your ministry had perfect credit, imagine the position you would be in right now. Next slide. And again, once you tie people together under a single credit vision, that's called a virtual credit bank. So if you got 6 people in your credit ministry, and if you're interested, you're going to let the Capital Dream Team know we are putting together right now what's called virtual credit banks throughout our network. I don't care if you got 3 members of your virtual credit bank. If you got 3 people with 720 credit score, that's still $1.5 million. You could probably get by with $1.5 million making stuff happen. Imagine your ability to witness and grow your ministry when you start giving people access to $500 million. Folk gonna come see you. They might just be coming to see you to get their credit together, but they're gonna stay once you introduce them to the man. So the virtual credit bank is an integral part of the new millennium church. Churches in the new millennium. In this millennium, a FICO-driven millennium, you have to understand what a virtual credit bank is. You have to do that. The way you access capital is completely different in this millennium. Next slide. Next slide. Go through a couple of these. We're running low on time, so I want to get through some of this. Keep going. Okay. The top 3 reasons people have bad credit. Again, you're going to go out and address your friends, family, congregations. You're going to start talking to them about perfect credit. That's the one thing they don't want to hear about. They don't want to hear about no perfect credit. Don't nobody want to hear about perfect credit. Everybody wants it, they just don't want to hear about it. They want it to be like manna from heaven, just rain down and one day it's there. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You have to lead people to the promised land, and then you have to inform them that there are giants in the land. And that's scary for you as a leader, but it's scarier for the congregation because they're scared of giants because they have very little faith. So before you embark on this mission, you got to make sure your faith is strong. Because you're going to lead them to the promised land, but there's giants in the land. So you have to be strong. That's why you have us on your side. We are Godzilla. We're the alpha predator. You think annex are bad, get with us. Talk to our team about some of the enemies we've destroyed. In the last couple months, some of the stuff we've done, you won't believe it. They'll show it to you and prove it to you. We're the alpha level predator. So don't worry about it. But you have to convey that to your people. So I want you to understand what they are thinking. So the first problem with leading your sheep to prosperity is hyperbolic discounting. Hyperbolic discounting refers to the tendency for people to increasingly choose a smaller, sooner reward over a larger, later reward as the delay occurs sooner rather than in time. Creditors count on this. They know that they create a lot of tension for you and then offer you a way out, then you'll take it because you're hyperbolic discounting. You don't want to learn the FICO system. Hey, man, I've been doing the same thing for the last 30 years. I don't want to learn something new. I don't want to have to learn the FICO system, retrain my brain into the area of personal finances. I don't want to have to be a good steward, a real good steward, or I don't want to be a wise steward. Let me change that back. I don't want to be a wise steward. I don't want to be a good shepherd. I just want to do stuff without thinking. Stuff my friends do, stuff the rest of the world does, stuff that we used to do that used to be kind of successful. That is hyperbolic discounting. Now, typically, we attribute hyperbolic discounting to drug addicts. But realistically, when you understand and keep doing the same things in terms of personal finance and getting the same negative outcomes, that is hyperbolic discounting. So when you apply for a payday loan, when you know that $500 is going to end up costing you $5,000, and you're going to regret it 5 days after you got the money and it's gone, that is hyperbolic discounting. You might as well be pulling out your crack pipe and firing it up. There's no difference. When you apply for bankruptcy 13, when you know at the end of 3 to 7 years you're going to be broke and have bad credit, you might as well be pulling out the pipe and getting bent because it's the same pattern of behavior. Next slide. Tennis shoe theory. I probably don't even have to explain this one to you. But where your money goes, so does your interest. So people get mad at me because I tell them, don't tell me that you want good credit. Don't tell me you want to be prosperous. Because let me ask you this question. What do you think the average American spends on tennis shoes? $324. What do they spend on financial literacy? $7. $300, $7. So what are you more interested in? Having good credit and being prosperous, or wearing good tennis shoes? Because where your money goes, that's where your interest goes. Okay? Look at what we spend money on. Look at this. Look, one of these. Oh, pet Halloween costumes. $310 million a year. And we wonder why we have bad credit and we're suffering in a FICO environment. Next slide. At least our pets are happy. The third reason is called the Bayaki hunter-gatherer syndrome. The Bayaki hunter-gatherer syndrome. Now, the Bayaki are known as the world's leading hunter-gatherers. And I spent some time studying them and appreciating this tribe. But I became very disenchanted and unhappy with them once I learned their methodologies. So I want to explain that to you. So in this video here, this gentleman, who is the top honey gatherer in the tribe, walks up to this tree. He didn't have a rope. He took some weeds and twigs and just fashioned them into a twine, which he then used to scale this tree. You see there, it looks like a beautiful, perfect rope. That was amazing stuff to me, very amazing. Then he just wrapped it around him, and he used leverage to go up that tree. He shimmied up that tree so fast it would blow your mind. It's a beautiful way to climb a tree. There's no better way. They are truly experts. Then he got to the top of the tree where they had this huge Africanized honeycomb. This thing was big and formidable and scary. And the people down below him had baskets to catch the honey. And what he did amazed me. He actually reached in the honeycomb and pulled out the honey. So he did like this. Ah! And dropped the honey down to them. And I'm looking like, what the? You tell me in 300 years of honey gathering, these people have not even invented the glove. But the problem is, for the Bayaki, it's the same problem for us. We've been doing the same thing so long that we don't seek improvement or innovation. It worked for me 10 years ago, I'm going to keep doing it. Even though my hands are now deformed and mangled, I got bee stings all over me, at least we got a little honey on it. That's called crazy. But most of us are Bayaki. Next slide. Keep going. Yeah, keep going. Do about 3 more slides. Now, one thing I want you guys to do, I don't want to play this now, but I want you to go online and look at this video by Lexington Law. Lexington Law is the largest credit repair company in the country. They have a new video commercial where they're talking about their most successful client. They're very proud and happy. This client, it only took them 4 years to get him to a 700 credit score. That's their best client. So imagine their worst. But I don't want you to believe me. I want you to see it for yourself. Next slide. Okay. So by the numbers, in the old credit system, you use credit repair, debt consolidation, or bankruptcy 13 to deal with your debt issues. The problem is you're going to spend $30,000 to $50,000. It's going to take you 3 to 7 years. It's going to cost you anywhere from $300 to $3,000 a month for 3 to 7 years. When you're done, you're going to be broke and have bad credit. When you're done, you're going to be broke and have bad credit. Once you're done, now you got to deal with your credit. So you go to a credit repair company like Lexington Law, they charge $99 a month. Their best client, they were done after 4 years. So that person only spent $5,000. The fact that he waited 4 years to get his credit right, he spent $5,000, and he still had a debt problem. Okay, the average client of theirs is spending anywhere from $7,000 to $9,000 to get their credit together. They're spending about 7 or 8 years. The problem with that is your credit is supposed to clean itself after 7 years. So imagine how Bayaki that is. You got to be Bayaki to do that. You spend $8,000 to watch your credit clean itself. That's Bayaki. So what I'm proposing that you do differently is you use a modern FICO-based solution like rapid restructure. Next slide. Go 2 more slides. Okay? Rapid restructure has three components. It has debt elimination filter, strategic credit restoration and development, and a FICO score enhancement algorithm. It handles your debt, your credit, and your score. DCS. This is a true DCS process. Remember we talked about debt, credit, and score. Next slide. The first thing you have to understand is the difference between good debt and bad debt. You only pay good debts. Bad debts you eliminate. You don't pay bad debts, you filter bad debts. You only pay good debts. Do 3 more slides for me. One more. Okay. So a good debt is any debt that's less than 9 days past due, if it's a secured like a mortgage or auto, or if it's government-based. Those are the only debts you should be paying. So tonight you go home, you make a list. These are my good debts. These are my bad debts. Bad debts are any debts that are more than 120 days past due, or they're deemed uncollectible. Next slide. Using debt filters, I can eliminate 90% of my bad debt without paying. Next slide. As soon as, this is a problem with addressing clergy. This is the problem with addressing clergy. As soon as I say I can eliminate 9% of your bad debt without paying, people get very offended. Wait a minute, what you talking about, Doc? So I have to explain to them that debt filtration is a system of 48 government laws and programs that were originally taken from the Bible. Our forefathers were Christians, and as a result, they used biblical principles to construct their law. So debt filtration is in the Bible. Let me give you the 2 scriptures. The first is Luke 7:41-42. A certain creditor had 2 debt filters. One owed 500 denarii, the other owed 50. When they could not pay, he canceled the debts for both of them. So again, the only criteria or requirement is that you couldn't pay, and then the debts were canceled. It didn't say they were negotiated or you wrote post-dated checks. The debts were canceled. That's the word. Number 2 scriptures, Deuteronomy 15:2. At the end of every 7 years, you shall grant a remission of debt. This is the manner of remission. Every creditor shall release what has been loaned to his neighbor. He shall not exact it or of his neighbor and his brother, because this is the Lord's remission, and it has been proclaimed. Next slide. One of the things I'm very excited about is that the Great Recession started in 2007. This is 2014. This is the year of the Lord's remission. If this clergy here will proclaim it, it will come to pass. And you will see 90% of all bad debt eliminated with 0 payment. You could, in your entire community, imagine the power to witness you would obtain if you simply announced that we're going to eliminate 90% of all the bad debt in our community. Imagine the prosperity you could sow into the world. So again, there are 10 stages of debt filtration. There's 48 of them. Next slide. We're only going to talk about a couple of them as time permits. I want to do some of the easier ones. So the first one is called a Stage 1 filter. This is for good debt. Stage 1 filter is typically called a hardship program, modification, a settlement program, or fresh start program, or a principal and rate reduction program. Every creditor in the country for the rest of the year is required to have some type of Stage 1 filter. So every creditor that you have has a hardship program to reduce their rates and or principal. Okay? Every creditor. So we've had several examples of our people who have had their car payments reduced, credit card rates dropped to 0. All you have to do to qualify is ask for the hardship program. Every creditor in the country has that. All mortgages. Everybody in this country should be in a stage 1 filter this year. You should be cutting your payments in half. The government offers stage 1 filters so that you can stop living paycheck to paycheck and start saving some money for retirement, for your kids' college funds, for emergencies. Next slide. Next slide. Keep going. Okay, let's see here. This is an example of a stage 2 filter. This is offered by the IRS. Oh no, this one's a little more difficult. Let's keep going. Let's do one more. Let's do an easier one. Keep going. Okay, hold on one second. I'm sorry, go back one slide. The IRS bad debt deduction filter is a little more difficult to explain, but I wanted to show you how it works. You can see here, this is a bank statement for a credit card. You see on here, previous balance 8178.61. Next column says payments and or other credits 8178.61. The total new balance is $0. Did the client pay the 8178.61? No. If you go down to descriptions, payments and or other credit, it says charge off adjustment. So the IRS paid off the 8178.61, so the client was left with a new $0 balance on their credit card. So your Uncle Sam, the IRS, paid your debts for you. Next slide. This is something you guys should understand what it is. Most people have seen a 1099-C. Notice that 1099-C is a cancellation of debt. Once you have received this, the debt has been canceled. That means you don't owe it anymore. There's nobody to pay. The debt has been canceled. Next slide. This is a letter that we got back from one of the creditors. This came from Chase Bank, the vice president of Chase Bank. One of our clients stopped paying a $26,000 credit card bill, and you can see the outcome of the debt filtration process. We filtered this debt successfully. It says, I've confirmed that the account charged off as a loss to the bank due to severe delinquency and was placed with collection agency Philip Cohen Associates in March 2010. It was placed with Creditors Financial Group, and in November with North Star Location Services. We have confirmed that we've updated our records to cease all collection efforts for this account. There will no longer be any payment due. Of course not, because it's been filtered. Please understand, when a bank cancels a debt, it's an Internal Revenue Service requirement to send a Form 1099-C. There you go. It says, in addition, we've requested the credit bureau agencies delete the account from your credit file. You got that? So that's a debt filter. It eliminated the debt for $0 payment, and it cleaned your credit simultaneously. So do I need to file bankruptcy on this? Do I need consumer credit counseling or debt consolidation? Do I even need credit repair? The answer is no. All I need to do is do one debt filter, and bada bing. Next slide. Keep going. Okay, this is a very good debt filter. It's called the offer and compromise. If you have a liability, a tax liability with the IRS, you should not be paying it. I repeat, never pay the IRS. You should filter the IRS. You never pay the IRS because they have given you this filter. It says an offer and compromise allows you to settle your tax debt for less than the full amount you owe. Can you get any better than that? It may be a legitimate option if you can't pay, or if doing so creates a hardship. Listen, even if you're very successful financially, hardships are relative. Don't think this means that you have to be destitute or homeless. It says if doing so creates a financial hardship, which is relative. The only reason that you might not be eligible is right here. It says you're not eligible if you're in an open bankruptcy proceeding. Duh. If I have an opportunity to reduce my tax debt by 90%, why in the heck would I be in a bankruptcy? Why would you be in a bankruptcy proceeding anyway? It doesn't work in the new millennium. That's not the beautiful part, though. If you get to the bottom here, it says, understanding the process. When your offer is being evaluated, all other collection activities are suspended. So even if you're in collections or garnishment, as soon as we file the OIC for you, it shuts down all collection activity. And then it says you're not required to make payments on existing installment agreements. So even if you made a mistake and you're currently paying the IRS because you didn't attend this workshop, you can shut down the payments to the IRS. Next slide, please. Here's an example. This client owed total balance due $80,000. After the first round, they reduced it to 20 grand. To 20 grand, and that was just the first round. Next slide.
So, Dr. Grayson.
Yes.
So we know that all you do is credit, and we know Dr. Grayson can sit here and talk to us all day about credit. But we did want to share a couple of testimonies.
Okay, good.
We wanted to talk to about our program. So don't leave us yet.
Okay.
I want to bring up.
Okay, that's good because I want to get some water. I want to get some water anyway. So you go ahead and do that, and I'll be back.
All right. So you guys, you can see that Dr. Grayson is just a wealth of information about credit. And if we sat here until tonight, he would still be talking about credit.
She's right, though.
Absolutely. But I'd like to bring up a couple of folks that have experienced a really great
So,
I just say that this program really works. I've been in the program with Irish Store, for about 6 months. And since being in the program, I've had $10,600 worth of deletion. I guess over 6 months ago, I was having problems with my car and I wanted to trade it in and get another car, even though it wasn't my pay for. That kind of makes it difficult to still hold and keep breaking down if you're trying to get another car and have them take down. Okay? So what they did, they went through the 10 years, you know how they do, they wanted to everybody. And then said, well, we can't do that to pay you. Was it being an Irish store? With Clergy, and I had 584, but they finished running the inquiry. Then brought down the little credit and said, I got it. 4 months later, it's yesterday, this week I was at the problem again with the car. Still haven't figured it out, but I said, I'm going to circumstance on the drive on down here. I got there because my credit score had gone up. I could have gotten the car if I didn't have the trade, the one that they could sell. I could have walked out there with no down payment because of my credit score. That showed me the power. It's the cost they had to pay. It's still $400 of the car. They took an issue down so they got to do something. We taking off all of this. So that makes sense. I'm just saying, this is so thing you all. It changed your whole world. When you can get those scores up, and I'm not talking about long time, I'm talking about 3 months, 3.5 months. So it can happen for you. Okay? That's all I want you to know, that I'm real. I can do this after this. Thank you, Dr. Lillian. I'd like to bring up another person that has a great testimony. Ms. Robert, how are you going to share your testimony?
About April 2002, I sent my daughter to go go to college. She's going to a nice prestigious college. I was paying out of my pocket. I'm a realtor, and at the time, the market was doing great. I had no problems. In 2006, the market turned upside down. My daughter decided to get online, found a young man and Ghana, and moved to Ghana and married him, but left me with the debt. So here I am, not being able to pay the debt. I said I was going to walk away from it. So I did. I walked away from it. Then met Dr. Grace and started talking about hardship. Now, I needed a way to get out of this because I want to get my credit score up. So I went back and I called the people at the student loan. I said, look, my name is Luca Powell, Social Security number. My phone was out of the house. I wanted to do a hardship. Okay, that's how I get it. 5 years I finished, came back. Hey, you made this debt. I said, no, the supervisor came back on the phone about 15 minutes and said, how are you sure you want to try to hardship? I said, yeah. So unfortunately, because this has been since 2002, it's a default and I can't even think. But what I can do is let you pay $5 for the next 25 years. And we'll take it off your credit. 20 minutes, $15,000. My credit score went from 515 to 641. Almost.
You back with us?
No. Hello?
Dr. Gray?
Yeah.
Okay, so we gave a couple of testimonies. Can you talk about before I Restore, when you were working with private individuals, what did you charge to help folks clean up their credit situation?
Okay, I'm sorry, say that again.
Before I Restore, when you were helping folks clean up their situations, what did you charge?
Before I Restore?
Yes.
It would start at $2,500. It could go as high as $30,000.
Okay, and since I Restore, and one of the reasons that Dr. Grayson shared with us that he was doing I Restore was because he wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize in the middle class. So now that you've done that, what's our new pricing? Do you want me to talk about new pricing? Do you want to talk about pricing?
No, you can go ahead and talk about pricing.
Okay, are there any other slides that you need to share with us that, like your ending thoughts on why this is so important and the urgency that we have to really get out and share the message?
Well, I think we should probably do a part 2 to this later on. But realistically, the one thing I wanted to convey was stop paying your bad debts. You got to get that message to everybody. Stop paying your bad debts. There is a filter for every single bad debt that's out there. Nobody should be paying their bad debt. Okay, so once we get everybody to stop paying bad debts, then we're going to show everybody how to get over 720 FICO, and then we're going to show them how to turn that into money. Then we're going to show them how to come together as a group, and then we will have true power. That's it.
Sounds good? That's good. Thank you, Dr. Grayson.
I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. All right, so Dr. Rose, you want to help me do the talk about money or talk about the cost? Or I'll do it. Okay, so to participate, I have how many? I can do. Okay, I can do. So to participate in I Restore, there's 2 prizes. The first prize is if you decide you want to be a customer. A customer of I Restore is $699. With tax and everything, it's about $750. That's the first way you can participate. What happens with that is that And then we're going to say your first 120 days, you should see an increase of between 50 to 100 points on your credit score. Remember, with Lexington Law, it took 4 years to get 100 points, right? So we're talking about 120 days. So you start at one place, and what our system does is we get your personal information, we do an analysis of everything, and the system will suggest what exactly you need to do. They will create the letter. Sometimes at first, it looks like credit repair, but Dr. Grayson has developed an algorithm that actually, he says, fights against the FICO algorithm, and that's how he's able to get results so quickly. At the same time, you will be able to filter your debt. So you have two things going on. You're eliminating debt, and you're increasing your score, right? It's a really good place to be in. So that's 753. If you decide that you want to be an associate, and what an associate basically does is they share the program. They share the program. So they do what we did today. They invite people to come to meetings, to look at it, to get online and look at it. Any of those things, you pay $49, and then you pay $599. So by being an associate, you get the same thing, but you save $50, and now Irish Store will pay you a referral fee. So every time you go out and you share it, you'll get a $50 referral fee. There's a couple other things a couple of other ways that we get paid, but that's the basics, right? So and I say, why pay $6.99 or why pay $7.50 when you just pay $700, right? You pay your $701. You have to get a credit monitoring system, and why? So that they will know exactly what your credit looks like. And it's a third party, so we're not saying, okay, but maybe you're doing something to manipulate the numbers. So because it's a third party, we know that's not happening. Okay? So you do that, and then you just sit for about 30 days. You don't do anything while they're sending out getting your information prepared, looking at, okay, so here's Cornelia's situation. This is what we have to do for her. Now here's Dr. Rose's situation. This is what we have to do for her, right? So the great part about Irish Store that I really like is if you decide that you want to participate, we never have to touch your personal information, right? So a lot of folks have challenges, but guess what? You don't want anybody to know. Because in the past, you have a challenge, and somebody sees it, they go, that's what, that's so-and-so, right? Well, you don't even have to worry about that, right? But the power of this program, when he started talking about the virtual banks, when people get up to those 720s and all those kinds of things, and when I look at some of the folks that are here, when I look at some of the folks that are here that are on the team, so I know. So we have a tax preparer here, right? He already knows everybody's personal situation, right? He knows what people are looking for and how we can help. This, Dr. Rosie said to me one day, we need to just go up and down Crenshaw to all of the businesses, right? Because the reason why their shelves are empty is because they don't have capital, right? The end result, Ivy Store may look like credit compared to you, but what Ivy Store really is access to capital, right? And when you have access to capital, you restore yourself, you restore your communities, you restore your family, your friends, and before this is all over, we have a standing room only wherever we are. We can get Dr. Grayson to come in and do workshops. And so today we were a little long because we'll work with him so he'll know the difference between a practice and a workshop. But all of that, he's just credit. And once he gets going on credit, I'm telling you, it's an all-day thing. Because that's what he says. I don't do anything else but credit. And we want everyone to really take this opportunity to work on your personal finances. One of the things that he didn't say is debt filters, because they're government laws and regulations. When President Obama is out, guess what? A lot of those debt filters may go away. So we don't have a lot of time to think about it, to sit around and say, I don't know, is this a good program. Let me spend 7 or 8 months to investigate. We don't have that time, right? But what we do have before us today is a great program. And then my personal regional leader. Let's give her the picture was really painted clear. And what we would like for all the clergy to do is to really go back, have some of our representatives, someone who come and can help you to get this message across to your membership. Because once you can empower them, it will help empower the church. We're looking at 30,000 churches that's in foreclosure. We're going to see more in foreclosure if we don't do something. We can sit and pray and hope it doesn't happen, but this is the reality. Pastor Sheets, would you please come? Pastor Sheets has made this place available every Tuesday night at 6:30. We are here doing this education, crying in the wilderness, trying to educate the people because we know that things can change. We don't have to live like this. You know, when we look at parents who send their children in college because you think it's going to happen for them, and I talked to a minister back who loses his property, and he has 3 children, they can't help him, and he can't help them. That's a sad story, isn't it? It's a sad story. But we're caught up into a system, as he talked about Pharaoh returning and living straight on the fashion, that's what we're looking at. And I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of what we're going through. So when you get tired of it, you got to do something about it. That's what I'm so passionate about, because I'm out here every day. Come on, Pastor. And I just appreciate him opening these doors because he wants us to do better. He didn't have to beg me to do it. He didn't have to beg me to come on. I knew to get on the way. So, Pastor, we just want you to close this up. Our team, let's have our dream team to speak. Give it back again. Today, we didn't have Bruce and Patrice Johnson that are in Dallas, Texas, and helped us with the Google Hangout. We would be Google Hangout today. So we really want to thank you. Serve the food. We want to thank the cooks. We just want to thank everybody. And we hope for all the pastors just stand so we can send me the pastors to give them a save the people. Thank you very much. So we don't have Pastor Sheets to do that because he's never get robbed with this. And then the whole time we want you to get with the person who invited you so they can give you more information. And Saturday we have a meeting in Culver City. What is that address? 6100 Central Drive, the House Human Center Building, on the 3rd floor from 9 to 11 every Saturday.
Pepperdine Building.
Pepperdine Building.
Mm-hmm.
Just before I close up, yes, I just had to brother, and everybody that knows me, I spent the last 28 years trying to position our men to go back home and become head of the hospital. I tell the people that live there, if the men ever get themselves together, the ladies and the children will be just fine. I'm saying that if the men ever get themselves together, the women and the children will be just fine. I took this from this morning, I want to give him a minute and a half. Again, he's here with a powerful program, and just share with us because maybe someone here might know someone who can take advantage of what they're doing. Good morning. My name is David Cole. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. traveled around the country doing seminars, the one that I'm here this weekend, Saturday morning at Carson Community Center. It's called Healing Hurting Men, Fathers Fight for Justice. All the negative behavior our children participate in, the common denominator is fathers. When they walked away, or the courts is pushing away. We want to save our children, we want to save our communities. We got to get fathers back into the lives of our children. And what I do is tell my story. It's a very powerful story of how I fought the state of Tennessee just to be in my son's life. So I hope you all will come out and spread the word. This is key. Children are in jail, participating in early childhood pregnancy, all the things that are negative. We can stop that. And the key is fathers. I firmly believe that. I can look at my children as a witness of what they've been able to accomplish simply because I went to war for them. Not for me, but for them. We have to do that if there's no advance of us. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Pastor, for allowing me to share. Once again, thank you for coming out. And let us remember one thing. So often, when everything is well in our homes, we don't forget about those around us. So often, when everything is well in our homes, we don't think about those around us. And as leaders, we have the ability to reach out into the lives of those who come in contact with us on a daily basis to make a difference. And credit is making a difference if we can get our credit situation together. And I'm not here as a hair commercial. And the guy said, you ever been talking to hair commercial? But the guy said, I don't know, I'm still on the time also. I'm here for a lot of
Amen.
and so I'm the first to admit it. I'm trying to work this so that it would be a solution not only for myself, but for my family. Stand all over, please stand. Not just prayer to be God sent pastors and preachers to the house. Put up the word. Don't leave this day without locking in what you've heard this day. A lot of information, a lot of opportunities. But don't you just take it lightly, because it gives all of us the ability to make a difference, not only in our lives, but in the lives of those around us. Amen.
Giving thanks to God this day. You're all blessed to be here. I just want to give a thanks to the Lord. I just want to pray for a long time. That the people within our community, African American community, the homes work together. Learn this system of economics that Mason said at the Bible school. You must have the full circle of the life. You must know what it means to sustain your family. If you know how to pray, in those prayers you must know how to sustain yourself and your family. And you must know how to multiply that wealth. Because in the life circle, someone will always be found. You can share the wealth along with the knowledge. So this that come forward, and I thank you, Pastor, that you have brought this to the community along with the other brothers and sisters that are doing the work of the Trinity. So giving thanks to God this day for his great blessing. Great blessing upon the people who have given so much Lord is teaching something.
Thank you. Have a blessed day in the Lord. God bless you.